Thank you. Assembly Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Present.
Assemblywoman Black.
Here.
Assemblywoman Brown May.
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine.
Present.
Assemblywoman Dickman.
Here.
Assemblywoman Duran. Assemblyman Ellison.
Present.
Assemblywoman Martinez.
Present.
Assemblyman Matthews.
Here.
Assemblyman MacArthur. Assemblywoman Thomas.
Here.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Chair Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I promised myself that out of force of habit, always saying Madam Secretary, and I apologize. I knew not to say that today, and I still did it. So my apologies, Mr. Secretary. Please mark Assemblyman MacArthur as absent excused. We have a quorum. Members, please know that we have two bills that we're going to be hearing this morning. We're going to take them in the order they appear. I want to remind everybody to please mute your microphones unless you are speaking, and please keep your cameras on at all times, unless you have an emergency or something come up. For those of you following us virtually, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. I want to remind you that everybody has a unique setup, which is why you'll see people looking in different directions. It's just the type of setup they have in their office. I want to remind the presenters that please state your name for the record after each question so that you can help our staff, and that you please speak directly into the microphone when possible so that we can all hear you clearly. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open up the hearing to Assembly Bill 21. Whenever you're ready, good morning.
Good morning, committee. My name is Mandy Davis, Deputy Administrator for the Division of Child and Family Services. I have with me Erica Pond, our Victim Services Supervisor. She oversees all of our victim services programs. Thank you for the opportunity to present AB 21 this morning. This bill changes some of the confidentiality requirements for our confidential address program. We'll start with Ms. Pond presenting a brief overview of the program, and then I will go through each section of the bill. So with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Pond.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present this overview of the confidential address program. My name is Erica Pond, and I am the Victim Services Supervisor at the Division of Child and Family Services. I oversee the federal and state victim service grants that are administered by DCFS, the Victims of Crime Compensation Program, and the Confidential Address Program. The Confidential Address Program is known as the CAP program, and it functions to assist victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and stalking from being located by a perpetrator through public records. Once an applicant to the CAP program is approved, that participant, along with any family members residing with the participant, are provided with a fictitious address and a confidential mail forwarding service through DCFS. DCFS CAP staff receive and forward mail to the CAP participants, and in terms of volume, currently there are 1,467 CAP participants. Since 2017, the program size has increased by 200 to 400 participants per year. On average, 26 new applications are processed monthly, with upwards of 18,000 pieces of mail processed annually and around 1,500 pieces of mail processed monthly. The program is governed by NRS 217.462 through 217.471. The CAP program was established by the legislature in 1997 and began accepting participants in 1998. The CAP program originally operated out of the Secretary of State's office, followed by the Attorney General's office, before it was transferred to the Division of Child and Family Services in 2017. In 2019, Assembly Bill 41 was passed, requiring governmental entities and utility providers to allow the usage of a fictitious address upon the request of the CAP participant. In order to apply for the CAP program, potential applicants must apply through an advocate that's staffed at a domestic violence agency, and this is either a nonprofit or a local government organization. A complete list of the agencies across Nevada is available on our DCFS CAP website. There's a link by county listed there, so an applicant can click on their county and view agencies in their area, or download a printable list of all agencies in Nevada. The applicant must present specific evidence that indicates the applicant's a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, or stalking to the advocate. An example would be a copy of a police report, a record of conviction, a temporary restraining order, or another protective order. Once the information is verified by the advocate presents and submits an application on behalf of the applicant to DCFS for review. Per NRS, any application that's received by DCFS is processed within 5 business days. Once the participant is activated in the DCFS database, a welcome packet is sent to the participant. It explains the CAP program along with an approval letter, and then they're issued a CAP identification card, which includes a unique ID number. This card can be presented to agencies such as the Department of Motor Vehicles in order to verify the participant's active status in the CAP program. Each CAP participant remains active in the program for a period of 4 years, and participation in that program can be renewed as long as the participant can present additional information that verifies there's a continued threat of imminent danger. And with that, that concludes my CAP overview presentation. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I'll hand it over to Ms. Davis to walk through the bill.
Thank you, Mandy Davis, again for the record. I'm just going to go through each section of the bill and provide a brief overview of what those changes would be completing. For section 1, it changes the process to request confidential information through the county recorder's office. Currently, participants in the CAP program are required to obtain a court order to request that the county assessor or county recorder keep their information confidential. Section 1 of this bill would change that requirement so that a CAP participant can keep their information confidential without requesting a court order. Under the bill as it's currently proposed, they would be required to submit a sworn affidavit that they are a participant of the program. Section 2 adds the CAP participants to the list of individuals who may request that a county recorder keep their information confidential. Sections 3 and 4 do those same changes but that section only makes the changes to the county assessor's office. So those would be the same requirements where they would only have to submit a sworn affidavit to the county assessor's office saying that they are a participant of the program. For next section, section 6, existing law authorizes certain persons to request that the Department of Motor Vehicles display an alternate address on a person's driver's license, commercial driver's license, or identification card. Section 6 would just add CAP participants to the list of individuals who would be authorized to make such a request as well. And I'm sorry, I skipped section 5. Section 5 would be changes to the Secretary of State's office. Currently, under current law, CAP participants can register to vote and update their voter registration records, and it prohibits the county clerks from making their name, address, or personal information available to public inspection or inclusion in any public records. Section 5 would add the Secretary of State or the city clerk to those same requirements, and would also add the telephone number and the email address of those CAP participants to the list of information that must remain confidential. I would note that on page 5, line 2, there is it's a typo that made it into the BDR. It references the county recorder. This section has to do with the county assessor. So at the end of line 2, it would just be county assessor. We have been in communications with the counties regarding these proposed changes. We are in continued conversations and are willing to propose a friendly amendment if needed to change the requirements. Instead of the sworn affidavit, if the CAP participants would also be required to submit a copy of their participation card through us, or some type of verification through our office just to confirm that they are participants of the CAP program. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation and walking us through the bill section by section. We'll start off with Assemblywoman Considine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. My question is not necessarily about this specific request, but in looking at NRS 247-530 and the list, I'm just wondering if this is not the correct place to ask, I can ask this offline. If there's any expiration dates for any of these confidential requests. So for example, I'm elected as, let's say, a judge. I served for 6 years. I asked during that time period for all of my documents or all my information to be made confidential. I don't see anything in this statute that after I'm out of office, 10 years, 15 years, or any time during my life, any of that information becomes unconfidential unless I ask for it. So I don't know, like, if this question is not germane to this specific thing, let me know, but it's just what popped up to me when I was reviewing this. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Mandy Davis, for the record. Currently, the participation in the CAP program is every 4 years. If it exceeds that amount, they would need to provide additional documentation saying that the danger still exists from their perpetrator or some other reason that would still allow them to remain enrolled in the program. I'm looking through the statutes right now. I don't see an expiration date for how long those confidentiality requests would remain active, but we'd be happy to come back to the committee with that information.
Thank you.
Next, we have Assemblywoman Thomas, please.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you so much. Thank you for DCFS for that presentation. I appreciate going over the particulars in the bill. The bill is for victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, etc. So I guess my question is, with all the confidentiality that would come with this, what about the voters? As you know, this was an unseemly election period, and people had questions about whether or not correct addresses were put in there. But if you have you spoken with anyone, legal or wherever, would this be a problem for people to be able to vote if their records are fictitious or confidential?
This is Erica Pond for the record. Regarding our CAP participants that would like to register to vote, we work closely with the Secretary of State's office to verify the CAP participant status in the program, and then they're given the information on those participants who they want their information to remain confidential but are registered to vote. So we work very closely with that office.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Next, we have Assemblyman Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is not quite related to this, but it is, you might be able to answer some of these questions. I'm getting calls from constituents. I don't know if most of the offices are shut down or they're working from home or what, but we've had people that are kids that are 20 some years old, 24, 25, they're still paying child support and they cannot get any kind of record. Can you answer that, and where could I send them? Because they're not getting any help out of the district attorney's office. I can tell you that. So could you answer that?
Thank you, Mandy Davis, for the record. The Division of Welfare and Supportive Services runs the Child Support Enforcement Program. So they would be the division to contact regarding any collections of child support. We'd be happy to provide their contact information, but that program's not run through the Division of Child and Family Services.
Okay. I didn't know if you knew who I could contact, so I will try that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Next, if we could go to Assemblywoman Black.
Chair. I just had a question, nothing major, about the wording in section 1 for county recorders / assessors different than sections 2 and 5. Section 1 requires someone to provide a sworn affidavit. They have a fictitious address from HHS, but section 2 through 5 states that if they were issued such an address, that they make a request. Can you give me some clarification on that? Maybe I'm just not understanding.
Thank you for the question, Mandy Davis for the record. Under current law in section 1, subsection 1, participants are required to submit a court order to be able to request that their information remain confidential through the county assessor or county recorder's offices. The changes in this bill for subsection 2, the participant would need to submit a sworn affidavit directly to the county assessor or recorder's office to be able to request that information remain confidential. So they would not have to go through the court order process as the bill is currently written.
Okay,
Does
I
that
get
answer
that
your
part. That doesn't. Okay. I guess I have a follow-up if the chair would allow it.
Follow up, please.
Can you tell me, just to clarify, the requirements on getting a fictitious address through HHS one more time? It's a TPO or a court order? Or what exactly do you need?
Erica Pond for the record. A potential applicant will have to go to a domestic violence agency in their area that staffs an advocate, and the advocate is who will be submitting the CAP application to DCFS on their behalf. So the process is that the applicant would present information that verifies that they're a victim of a qualifying crime. And then once the advocate verifies that that information is correct, they submit the application to DCFS, and then DCFS staff reviews what the applicant submitted and what the advocate has written in the application. And then once that's verified, we activate the participant in the program.
Thank you.
Members, I'm not sure if we had anybody else wishing to ask a question, but if I have skipped somebody, please unmute yourself and announce your name. I don't believe there's any further questions at this time. So at this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 21 who are calling in. Broadcast, please. I want to remind those of you calling in to keep your remarks to 2 minutes. Please state your name for the record and spell your name.
To testify in support, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, to testify in support, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in opposition of Assembly Bill 21 to please call in now.
To testify in opposition to Bill AB 21, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 21.
To testify in neutral, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have 2 callers.
Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 540. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chair Flores. My name is Serena Evans, SERENAEVANS. And I apologize. I'm actually in support. I don't know if you would like to come back to me. I was having technical difficulties, so I was just able to log on for the neutral testimony. Would you like me to continue?
No worries. At this time, we'll come back to those wishing to speak in support. Please continue.
Thank you so much, Chairman Flores. Like I said, my name is Serena Evans, and I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. And we're here today in strong support of AB 21. After a victim survivor is fortunate enough to have the courage and support to leave an abusive relationship, they are still not promised safety. In fact, the time after a victim survivor has left is the most dangerous time for victim survivors, with the majority of domestic violence homicides occurring after the victim survivor has left and ended the relationship. To protect themselves and their families, many victim survivors enroll in the CAP program to create a sense of safety, knowing that their address is not public information for their abuser to find. And while the confidential address program provides victim survivors with safety and comfort, having to apply for the program can be a daunting process and require a bit of the survivor's time. Having to then get an additional court order to maintain their privacy through public records with the county recorder's or assessor's office is another time-consuming burden that many victim survivors may not have the luxury of committing to. So with that, we are in support of AB 21 because allowing victim survivors to sign an affidavit rather than petition the courts to remove private information from public records is a step in the right direction of increasing survivor safety without putting a further burden onto survivors themselves. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you. And again, just let the record reflect that that testimony.
Your mic's off, Mr. Chair.
Again, thank you. Again, just let the record reflect that that testimony was in support. And at this time, we'll go back to those wishing to speak in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 21.
To testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 21, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 739. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chairman Flores, members of the committee. My name is Joanna Jacob, and I am testifying for Clark County. I'm the Government Affairs Manager. Mr. Chair, I am neutral today because we have been in communication with Ms. Davis, and as she testified to on the record, we are working through just the process of how this would work for the counties. I do also want to put on the record, Ms. Rodriguez, Jamie Rodriguez from Washoe County is caught in a budget hearing and wanted me to put on the record that Washoe will also work with DCFS on trying to figure out the process that we will
undertake to implement this bill. I think the concern that we had when we first reviewed it was just we would like to have some copy of the whatever is issued by DCFS attached to the affidavit so that it was uniform and consistent and recognizable for our county recorders, our assessors, and then also we need to work out the notification to our county election department. But I think we're going to get there, Mr. Chair, and we are neutral today and we'll work with the agency. Thank you.
And I appreciate your testimony. So my understanding is you're neutral because you're working on the bill, but as the bill stands, you're in opposition. Is that correct?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, this is Joanna Jacob. I didn't know if I had been muted or not. Joanna Jacob, Joanna Jacob, from Clark County. Yes, we are neutral because we're working on the amendment with the agency. Under the rules of the committee, if you would like to put me as opposed as currently written, but we are really neutral because we've been working on that process and we will work with the state on the amendment that will make us neutral.
And I understand. And
thank you.
I know we're working together. The last thing you want to do is say, I'm working with you and then I'm going to come in opposition. But it's completely fine. You're in opposition as the bill stands, but you're working with the sponsor and you intend to get to a place where everybody's going to be comfortable. But I will have the record reflect that at this point we're in opposition. That's completely fine. And to our presenters, please note that that's just standard. It's completely okay to be in opposition, and it doesn't mean they're not going to work with you. So with that, I'd like to broadcast. Do we have anybody else wishing to speak?
Chair, there are no more callers at this time.
Understood. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to have our sponsors please come back and any closing remarks you may have.
Thank you. Mandy Davis again for the record. Thank you for the opportunity to present this bill. We look forward to working with our county partners to make sure that we can come to an agreement on a bill that's acceptable to all parties. So thank you again.
I'm confident you'll get there. Please reach out to the committee if we can assist while those conversations are ongoing. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the hearing on AB 21. And next, I'd like to open up the hearing on Assembly Bill 70.
Good morning, Chair Flores, Vice Chair Torres, and members of the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs. For the record, Jason Lewis from the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services, Chief for the State Collection and Disbursement Unit. Thank you for the opportunity to present this morning. The State Collection and Disbursement Unit, known as SCDU, receives and processes all child support payments for the state of Nevada. Per federal regulations, the state agency must establish and operate a unit for the collection and disbursement of payments under support orders. SCDU has a payment processing system through our vendor to process child support payments. SCDU receives over $220 million per year in child support. Child support payments are received via electronic funds transfer, EFT, credit cards, cash, and SCDU receives approximately 22,000 mailed-in payments per month, averaging more than $10,000 per day. Due to the dollar amount, state law requires us to deposit all payments by the close of the next business day. Payments with accurate child support information and financial instrument information pass directly through the system without staff intervention. Payments lacking information are researched by staff, which could include contacting the individual or employer who sent the payment. This cannot always be done within the established statutory time frame. Also, almost daily, payments cannot be properly identified because the payment was never meant for Nevada. Depositing these payments requires SCDU to issue a refund check back to the payer instead of returning the payment with an explanation letter. Assembly Bill 70 will allow us to do one additional business day to deposit identified payments, which will align with federal requirements for dispersing payments to families. For unidentified payments, Assembly Bill 70 will allow a total of 5 business days to identify and deposit or return to the payer. This will expedite both the time for payments made in error to be returned timely and to get payments into the hands of the families it was intended for. Thank you, and at this time I can answer any questions you may have.
And thank you for that quick synopsis and breakdown. Members, at this time, we'll open it up for questions. I am now reviewing our chat to ensure that none of you have reached out preemptively asking to ask a question. We'll start off with Assemblywoman Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just curious, if you know who the payment's going to, why, maybe I'm not understanding, why do you need an extra day for that if you know who the recipient is?
Jason Lewis for the record, thank you for your question. We need an extra day sometimes due to the volume that we receive. Sometimes we will receive over 2,000 pieces of mail in a day. And with that volume, it's sometimes difficult to complete all those payments within the one day.
Thank you.
Members, any additional questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and state your name for the record. Easy enough. You did such an amazing job with your bill presentation that every single possible question has been answered. So I thank you for that. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 70. We'll start with those on the phone.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 7, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to go to those wishing to speak in opposition to Assembly Bill 70. We'll start with those on the phone.
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 70, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. And then we'll stay on the phone and we'll go to those wishing to speak in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 70.
To testify in neutral on Assembly Bill 70, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. And I am just making sure that we did not have anybody on video wishing to speak in support, opposition, or neutral. My understanding is everybody's a presenter, but I just wanted to get final confirmation of that. With that, if I could have our sponsor please come back and any closing remarks you may have.
Jason Lewis for the record. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. I do not have anything further to add.
Perfect. Thank you. And with that, we'll close out the hearing on Assembly Bill 70. And next broadcast, if we could please go to public comment.
To take your place in the public comment queue, please press star 9 now. Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Members, I wanted to say thank you. We were able to hear a few bills this week. We've knocked out quite a bit of presentations. I hope that everybody at this point is getting into the rhythm, is feeling comfortable with what we're doing. I just wanted to say thank you for all the work, specifically to our staff. I know we've been pushing them real hard, and we're incredibly grateful for their hard work. With that, members, as you've noticed, we do not have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. We will not be having a meeting tomorrow morning, so hopefully that allows you to get some additional rest and take advantage of the morning. And then we'll be meeting again Monday, February 22nd at the hour of 10 a.m. We have two bills that we'll be hearing, Assembly Bill 52 and Assembly Bill 86. Please utilize this time and the weekend to become familiar with those bills and reach out to the sponsors with any questions ahead of time so that we could maximize efficiency and the utilization of this time in the committee. With that, members, again, thank you. I hope you feel that we got some good work done this week. I look forward to working with you all next week. With that, this meeting's adjourned.